Good evening, everyone. Tonight's meeting is being broadcast through Milford TV and other media are in attendance. If anyone would like a video or audio recording of the meeting, please let me know. Thank you and welcome, everybody. So tonight I think we're going to hear from our amazing music department. So why don't we get rolling with that?
So, come on up. Yeah, have everybody come up. Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Wherever you guys want to go. Just kind of stand close, semi-close to the microphones if you can.
Oh,
right
okay,
there.
sure. So we'll step up. So my name is Sarah Rohde. I'm the high school choir director, and I also teach music at Brookside. And we're going to start tonight just by the students introducing themselves, what grade they're in, and then which ensembles, extracurricular ensembles that they've made it into, whether it's districts, all-state, or all-eastern.
So before you guys jump in, I'm sorry. If parents want to jump around here and get just a better angle, you're more than welcome to pop behind and take a picture if you'd like. Go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jacob Dias. I'm a senior at MHS, and I was in all states and districts for chorus.
Hi, I'm Neha Matthew. I'm a junior at MHS, and I got into districts for chorus this year.
I'm Annie Flanagan. I'm a junior. I got into districts for band on the trombone.
I'm Ronan Fleming. I'm a freshman, and I got into districts for band and percussion.
I'm Emily Rose Maddock. I'm a junior, and I got into central districts for violin.
I'm Rebecca Gaffin. I'm a sophomore, and I got into central districts for chorus.
I'm Emily Fry. I'm a junior, and I got into the all-eastern choir and the districts choir.
I'm Erin Wheeler, and I got into the central districts choir.
I'm Gianni Pano. I'm a senior, and I got into the orchestra central district for a trumpet.
So the process of these students getting into these ensembles is that they prepare solos and excerpts on their instruments or their voice, and then we travel to a school where other students are auditioning as well, and then they're ranked by adjudicators, and then from there they can be considered for all-state, and then they can apply for all-eastern. So that's kind of the division and ranks of these extracurricular ensembles, and the state is divided up into districts. So there's an eastern district, central district, I think a southeastern, and western district. So it's schools in all of Worcester County area. So that's it. Yeah, thank you.
Comments from the committee?
First off, congratulations to each of you. Could you talk a little bit about the performances that are then involved?
Yeah, so they do 2 rehearsals.
Okay.
6-hour rehearsals each, I think.
Yeah,
It's like a Wednesday, Friday, 6 hours. We drive up to Wachusett, Wachusett with Central Districts. So it's 3 to 9,
Wow.
Wednesday and Friday in January. And then Saturday's the concert at Mechanics Hall in Worcester.
Oh, wow.
So.
Sounds like an incredible experience. I also recall a few months ago we were asked to approve a trip to Disney. Did any of you have an opportunity to go on that? I'd love to hear a couple comments about if that was a great experience.
It was a lot of fun.
So we competed in Disney as well, and all of our ensembles did.
Well said.
Did a great job, yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank
Anybody else?
No, congratulations. I mean, I'm sure it's, how long have you guys been playing these instruments? Years? A week? Months?
I mean, most of you probably have been in chorus since 4th grade.
Yeah.
And playing since 3rd or 4th grade.
Yeah,
Third
well,
grade too.
Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you guys. Amazing work. Something to be very proud of.
So I've had a fair amount of experience with this group this year, and I can say Emily Rose, she taught me how to play the violin, and Miss Pomeroy keeps coming to me and saying, "We need you for first chair." I'm not quite sure what that means.
It's a good thing.
Good. Okay,
It
good.
is a good thing.
Good. And Jacob had the opportunity to teach me to sing, and I make Happy Birthday unrecognizable. So he actually made that work, so that was awesome. And I had an opportunity to kind of do some songs at the holiday time with a few of you too, which was a lot of fun. It's an incredible music program that we have, and I think these students and Ms. Rohde and the whole music staff are just great examples of just the phenomenal things that go into it. And I see such joy happening with the students when they're engaged in like singing or performing. I think it's just awesome. So congratulations, guys. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys. Let's move to the approval of minutes.
So I think we have some.
Do we have anybody
So we've
else?
got, it's gonna do the approval of minutes and then jump to the high school student for this invitation to speak. Gentlemen and ladies, you can have a seat. Feel free to jump down and sit down.
Okay, we're going to approve the minutes. Can I get a motion? From Chris. Second from Joe.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Jim, I didn't abstain, that's what that was.
Yes, that's right.
Then we have the high school update.
Okay, now the high school update.
So introduce yourself, sir.
I'm Theodore Lucier, the junior class president for the student council. And do I start talking?
Yep,
about-
just jump right into the update.
All
You're
right,
doing
well,
great so far.
We have elections coming up, so a lot of our candidates are starting their campaigns, and it's going to be lots of fun. Last year was a blast, at least for me personally. It was a lot of fun. And what else do we got? We're starting to wrap down the year, so we got our events, the senior night, senior awards night, graduation. We're planning some stuff out with like flag bearers and what to do for that. So I think that's pretty much it. We don't have a lot other than that. Yeah.
Anybody?
Do you think your races will be as heated as the presidential election?
I
Are there a lot of
think-
people interested?
Yeah,
Excellent.
I loved doing it last year. You know, bringing the campaign. You know, fiery competition, and I like to hope so that it
Excellent.
would be nice. Everyone will enjoy it. Yeah.
Is there a lot of social media involved in the campaigning process?
Not as much as you think.
Okay,
but
just curious.
yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, good luck.
Thank
everyone.
Yeah, good luck.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Anybody else? No? Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right, so announcements, correspondence, and distributions.
And announcements, correspondence, and distributions. Does anybody have anything they want to? Jim?
Thank you, Jim. Today, I had the privilege of going to, spending the day here at the high school, watching the Generation T project that they have with the buildings and trade program that we have here. And I gotta tell you, I was blown away by what I saw today. It was something I did not expect. You had 100 and something kids building dog houses, and at first I figured, shit, the dog house, how awesome can these things be? Absolutely amazing. It was well attended, and I've got a little paragraph with just some information that actually went on today I'd like to share with the rest of the group, so if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
Over 140 Milford High School students in grades 9 through 12 participated in an immersive experimental program in the building trades earlier today. Milford High School partnered with Lowe's Home Improvement to stage this kickoff event for Generation T, national initiative to promote trades education in public schools. Students worked in teams to build professional-grade doghouses with the support of tradesmen from East Coast Flooring and People Ready. The doghouses will be donated to the Bay Path Humane Society as a gift from Lowe's and Milford High School. After completing the build, the students learned about the outstanding opportunities available in the trades from Michael Mitchell, the director and founder of Generation T. In the final segment of the program, Lowe's, Home Improvement, and other corporate partners in the event made a number of gifts to the Milford High School Building and Trades program, including approximately 5,000 in brand new power tools for Metabo. Is that what it was, Metabo today? Yeah. And also $15,000 to use at Lowe's in a commitment by People Ready and Alliance Construction and Development to renovate our building and trades classrooms, which is huge. I mean, it's the words I can't explain to what these guys did today. It was great. This partnership with Lowe's and Home Improvement was made possible by the Builders and Remodelers Association of Greater Boston. The organization was helped and launched our building and trades courses with the support of the National Home Builders Institute. Timberland Pro and Bosch also made important contributions of supplies and labor to support this event. In addition to supporting our students in today's program, East Coast Flooring and People Ready provided the manpower, trucks, and expertise to convert our gym into a shop space for 24 teams of Milford High School students. And again, this program today, I was blown away by it. Megan, I know you were there today. Chris was there as well, and Jen was there too. It was just I didn't expect it to be what it was. And these kids, I don't think a single one of them were bored. They all loved every minute of it. You saw the looks on their faces today. It was something that was, and this was nationwide too. They kicked it off here in Milford.
An army of employees from Lowe's that set up the gym, broke it down. It was really just, a great a first-class operation from start to finish. And I think it's important to note that this was the national kickoff of this program, and we saw tremendous interest from our students. And they outlined like the lucrative careers that could happen in the construction trades. So I think it's a promising program that we started, a number of great partnerships, and just a phenomenal day for Milford High School. And I want to personally thank all of the organizations that participated and made it such a success, and made unbelievable donations to the program, the school, and the district.
And didn't they get applications out there today too as well?
Yeah, so this is going to lead to, I think, we're changing the high school schedule, so it's going to lead to internship programs in the future. And we have a number of companies and organizations that are very interested in our students when they complete this program to either, work in the summers, work part-time, or potentially work full-time after they graduate. So I think it's a fantastic, opportunity for the students in Milford.
Like you said, Joe, I'm sorry if I'm interrupting you. It wasn't, I don't remember the name of the organization, but one of them is taking on.
East Coast took 18 today.
Yeah.
For apprenticeships.
Yeah.
Today they
18
signed up. I
today.
mean, to me it was just so remarkable
Yeah.
and truly inspirational, because I thought that Generation T organization did a great job explaining the dire straits of that industry in terms of, I think they said about like a 3 million individual shortage in terms of the construction trades, and that how lucrative these careers are, and just the true need there. And so I thought it was really eye-opening. It was eye-opening for me, so I hope the students felt the same. I thought it was great.
Yeah, so absolutely awesome, though. Absolutely awesome program. I think it's going to lead to a number of great long-term partnerships for us that will benefit our students.
But I also think we'd be remiss if we didn't publicly thank Josh Otland and Rich
Absolutely.
Johnson
Absolutely.
For pushing this program where it is. And I'm sure there's others that I'm forgetting, but Josh and Rich especially.
No question about that.
Mr. Chair, if it would be okay with the committee, we could formally take a vote to accept the gifts from Lowe's and the vendor that graciously agreed to renovate the room for the high school. And the tools, so all three to Lowe's. And what was the other name of the vendor, Joe?
Lowe's and Metabob.
Do that now, take a
Yep.
motion. Have you had a motion to accept the gifts from today for Meg, and a second from Joe?
Absolutely.
All in favor?
And we'll follow up with thank you letters, obviously, and these are partnerships we hope to continue in the future.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else care to be heard? Laura?
For an announcement, we have our first office hour next week, the 30th. It's a Tuesday, so Tuesday, April 30th. It's Town Library in the Granite Room from 9 to 10 a.m. So Megan and I will be there. We welcome any members of the community to come and talk with us. We want to listen and hear any concerns or questions that you may have. And another one is scheduled for May, hopefully in the evening. So just keep that in mind. Thank you.
Awesome.
Good. I had the opportunity to attend and participate in the Best Buddies pageant last Friday evening, which is one of my absolute favorite events of the year. Josh Otland, Lucy Jenkins, and myself served as judges, and we were wearing capes and masks because it was a superhero theme. But if you haven't been to this event, it's a phenomenal night. It's almost like a variety show that a number of our students in the Best Buddies program participate in. It's just a great event, and you just see a lot of just happy students and happy families because of and I want to thank Lexi Forget for just organizing this event and pulling it together. There's a number of volunteers that just make it happen. A number of our teachers served as MCs, and we had a great turnout of faculty in the audience, kind of supporting students and former students. So just a great night and a great event.
That's awesome. Thank you. Anybody else? No? Okay. Invitation to speak. Is anybody here that would like to speak? Okay. school choice participation vote.
So let me pull that up, Joe. So basically, this is an annual vote that we take on just participating in the school choice program. What this allows us to do is we were voting to potentially take students in for school choice. We can't vote for students not to leave for school choice out. That's not what we participate in. I'm recommending that we do vote school choice in for next year. What we're going to do as a district is we always analyze each grade level and see if we have space, and then we determine what grades are open. Our numbers have increased dramatically this year, so we may be accepting significantly fewer school choice students next year than we have the past few years, potentially. We usually complete that analysis after the vote takes place. I can tell you typically 12 and 11 close immediately. We've pretty consistently closed what's been the two big classes, which are going to be 8th and 9th grade next year. And then we'll look at the other grades to see, where if we would potentially take school choice students in for next year.
Okay, great. So can I get go ahead.
I just have a question. So let's say you have a class that's sort of on the larger cusp, right?
Mhm.
And you vote to keep it open, and then during the year you get 40 students, I don't know, I'm making it up,
Yeah.
25 students
Yeah,
added.
no, fair.
You just make this vote once a year, right?
So basically, so we can close classes at any point.
Okay. So you monitor that.
Yeah,
and then, okay.
and we usually anticipate, like, we know there's certain points of the year where we'll receive an influx of students,
Mhm.
and we try to account for that, and typically we're pretty close.
Okay.
This year was hopefully an aberration.
Right. Yeah.
Because we're up 6.25% in student population, which, just is very, very unusual.
Do you have a threshold number that you?
So we
close
actually look at class size, and we just look at that for each grade level.
Okay.
So typically, like, when we look at the class size
Yeah.
considerations, like, it's a little lower for the early grades, a little higher as you get up,
Yeah.
but if class sizes are even close to that, we tend not to accept students into the
Okay.
program.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is the school committee part of that process, or no? Is that something you guys
That's
do
something
it-
that's an administrative decision.
Okay.
You just vote to either participate in the
participate
program or not
annually,
participate, yeah.
and then you guys make the decisions?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then that's kind of our rationale behind
Mhm.
whether we go forward or not with a particular grade level. We do it by grade level.
By grade, okay.
Anybody else? Can I get a motion for a school choice participation vote? Meg, second? Joe?
Or all in favor, yeah.
You remember? Sorry.
Joe's the third.
We have a second already?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, report of the superintendent of schools.
So-
School culture and climate discussion.
Unfortunately, our presenter had a conflict, so we're going to shift this presentation to either the first or second meeting in May. We're just trying to make sure that the folks are available. So
Okay.
I'm hoping for the first meeting in May, but it could be the second meeting in May, just based on a few different factors.
Okay, perfect. Report of the assistant superintendent for curriculum, instruction, and assessment.
Thank you. So we're going to talk today a little bit about sort of enrichment opportunities that we have across the district. I think the program that happened today at Milford High School is a perfect example of an enrichment opportunity that happens at our schools. That one happened to include 140 students and 75 people from Lowe's. That isn't the norm, but in a bunch of dog houses. But we do have great enrichment activities that are happening every day in our schools, during school and after school hours. The first thing I wanted to do, and I do have some visitors here to kind of share some of the projects that they're doing at Stacy Middle School in their STEAM, but I wanted to have a quick, just kind of give you a working definition of what I consider enrichment, and then we'll go from there, okay? So what is enrichment? I think it's important to use this as a definition when we consider the kinds of things that are enrichment. So I would define it as any activity, that a course, project, or assignment that provides opportunities for students to transfer what they know and demonstrate higher order thinking, like analyzing, evaluating, or creating, in their learning. It's a structured, hands-on activity. It enriches the understanding and personal development of our students, develops soft skills and qualities such as teamwork, independence, initiative, and responsibility, and involves learning by doing. I think some of you that had the privilege of coming today to see the dog houses being put together, I think this exemplifies everything that happened there. And I think that when you see the projects that the students are going to come up and demonstrate for you, all of this is within that frame. All right, so what kind of opportunities do we have in the Milford Public Schools for enrichment? First, we have them embedded within individual instruction blocks, including core content areas, things like project-based learning, differentiated assignments, performance assessment work, and that's through MCIA, which we've talked about, that kind of work. And then technology. Technology also offers us some advantages with offering enrichment opportunities and differentiating instruction. And then also, I would consider special subject classes as well as enrichment courses. So music, art, STEAM or STEM, Project Lead the Way courses, phys ed, health, those kinds of things that are outside of the norm core content area. The other thing is outsiders coming into our schools, so like Lowe's, like YMCA at times. The Children's Museum, for example, comes in and does a program with some elementary students on different things. So groups like that come in for one-off opportunities. And then there are numerous after-school activities. If you look at the handout that you received today, these are just, I don't think it's exhaustive. I asked the principals to put down a list of things that happen after school and during school. So I think there's 12 pages here. The only school I didn't ask for was Milford High School, because I also think that there's just a lot going on at Milford High School. So they're kind of in order. So Stacy Middle School is first, and you can see it's the first 4 pages, I think. And then Woodland Elementary School, then Memorial, Brookside, and so on. But then the last, I think, 4 or 5 pages, community use. And they're really starting to think outside the box and think of different ways that they could kind of push some academic type learning experiences. Like, for example, they're really excited about a Spanish for Kids course that they're going to have this summer, and a Portuguese for kids that they're going to have this summer for lower elementary kids. So they'll have kind of different divisions. There'll be like a kindergarten, first grade group, and then a 3 to 5. And then depending on how that goes, they're going to offer it maybe out more throughout the year. So there's opportunities like that. But I would encourage anybody that's looking for enrichment opportunities in our schools to look at the community use. Community use has a great program, and they're always looking for different programs too. So if any teachers have enrichment opportunities that they would like to offer, Lenny works with them and kind of creates a program around that. The only downside is that typically community use programs, there's a fee associated with it. I think they try to work with parents if parents kind of need some help with the payment, but I think that sometimes when you have a fee, when there's a fee, there's a barrier there. So questions are, how can we bring more enrichment opportunities into our schools so that all kids are getting what they need? It's kind of a question that we ask teachers. We do spend a lot of time kind of helping kids that have fallen behind in one way or another or have special needs. But I also think that kids that are on the other end also have special needs. So how are we meeting those high flyers and making sure that we're not holding them back? And in a lot of ways, our technology helps. But the more we get into project-based learning, I think the more that our teachers feel comfortable with project-based learning and offering those opportunities, those are the ways that we're going to be able to differentiate for kids and kind of push kids into a different direction. I don't know, does anybody have any questions for now before we hear the kids? Or we can save them for after? we see what.
Yeah, I'd recommend saving them for after.
Okay, so I asked Mr. David Sparks and Miss Corey Howard, they're both the STEAM teachers at Stacy Middle School. I had the opportunity to kind of go through their classes and see some of the great projects that they were doing, and I just felt like they needed to be showcased because they're such great, I don't know, hands-on activities. I'm not going to steal the thunder and say anything more, but I'm going to ask them to come up, and I know that they brought some students with them.
Actually, Corey, you're gonna do the 6th and the 7th, right?
Sure. All right. So 6th and 7th grade, we start off with design and modeling with the 6th graders, where we're really teaching them how to represent an idea, the beginning of an idea. The design process is really important. The steps in the design process. Their first project is a foot orthosis, and that's it. It's got a strap, hold the ankle, and not allow the toe to bend down. Eventually we go through the program and we get to a puzzle cube, which I have it put together so that it doesn't end up in pieces, but the puzzle cube, and they take that home. That's pretty much the 6th grade, a couple other things. And then the 7th grade curriculum goes into engineering and the environment. This is an unfinished one where the students are currently working on it right now. This is probably one more day, but solar panel. And the idea is that they solve a problem, a pollution problem, an energy problem, emissions problem, with some renewable energy thought and idea, and it's in line with the 7th grade curriculum. This was a solar panel in Portugal, I believe, in the mountains. They wanted solar panels to help with pollution, eliminate coal burning and natural gas, and then they have a little LED light that the solar panel lights inside. I see nothing's even not quite glued down yet, but they did tell me I could take it and show it off a little bit, even though it wasn't done. And then they get into the 8th grade. In the 8th grade curriculum, we start off with bridges and do structures and supports and like diagonal braces and those kind of things. And as we go through, then we do the quiz boards, and that's where Mr. Sparks is.
So, I'm new to STEAM. I was a 5th grade teacher. I think most of you know maybe who I am. So we came into this program and we were looking at how the world is all technology based, and a lot of kids are end users. They are screen swipers, but how do you get the power there? How do you get those images there? That's the real key to understanding, is being an end user is not enough. As a matter of fact, just look at the cords you have here setting this room up. So we started off with something real easy. I talked to Dick Johnson, and he said, you know, he gave me his blessing, let's get a feeder program for some robotics and for some electronics. So we started off with just a simple quiz board, coming up with 10 questions and wiring a board with a simple circuit and using aluminum foil and taping it. And remember, guys, when you first had this, was this easy? No, right? Everybody thought this, we'll never be able to do this. This is impossible. I can't get the battery to stay. So they had to engineer all that. But this was a kind of lead model, until we got to the car project. And that was a kind of a pilot project that we brought in for one half of the STEM program to see how it would work. So we showed the kids breadboards, we showed the kids resistors, we showed the kids buttons and how they worked, and then we wanted them to just create. And the car project started off with it had to go forward and it had to use a remote. Okay, sounds easy enough. Just like when we were kids, like an umbilical cord, you could follow it, it's not RC. And then we said it has to have lights and it has to have a horn. And then it has to go backwards. And we're gonna have a little obstacle course, a drag race forwards and backwards. We haven't got there yet, but these are some of the examples. I'd say 80% of all of the kids participating are here. These are just the ones that could make it tonight and volunteered to come. And theirs have a little bit more, you know, spit and polish to them. But I want you guys to take a real good look and ask them questions. Because basically I was a facilitator, and when I talked to Craig about this a little bit, taking them from the idea and then saying, you figure it out. How are you gonna make those wheels turn? What's an axle do? Go on and look it up. And to come up with all the different ideas, each car is super unique, but they all had to fit those requirements. And there are a couple that I wish I had them here. The drive mechanisms are outstanding. They're just different. They may not be better or worse, but they're completely not what you would expect. So I'd like to have the kids come up. If you could ask some questions about what they learned, what the hardest things were, what did they overcome. but if you don't mind, like, having them come to you, if that's easier.
Absolutely.
All right, and have them put on the desk, and they can move around a little bit. You guys can work the remotes. They'll instruct you how to do that. So if you guys, we'll kind of introduce each car. This fella here is a scavenger. They were allowed to use parts from a car, but not a car. So they had to cut whatever they were. There's Legos involved. Jake wired up this car so that the stock lights work. Uniqua, that's the name of that car right there. Uniqua. So
what parts came from school? What did he give you?
So,
or everything was school?
I brought in 4 wheels.
Okay.
This is so when we get more advanced, I already have a steering mechanism ready.
That's so cool.
Instead of having to redesign it.
Huh.
This body came from his scrap pile.
Okay.
So you could, this is horn, this is lights, that's Ford, that's
You gotta be
reverse.
kidding me. This is awesome.
Here, I can put this
Oh,
on.
yeah.
That just locks in. Sits there.
Right. And it just goes back and forth? That is super cool.
So how many wires are involved?
There's 9 that go from this controller.
Okay.
I soldered everything so I wouldn't have to have a second breadboard.
Like the hot solder and all that stuff, yeah?
I did that. So I have, there's 8 wires inside. Is there 8 in here?
6.
6.
Yep.
All right, 7 then. So there's 6 wires inside of this telephone wire.
Yep.
And then I had to run 1 extra ground because I didn't think of that.
Yeah. And what was the teaching that went into it before you were able to just like hands-on do it?
Very cool. Well, what were some of the lessons that we had to get there first?
Just kind of the simple, like the size was a hard because at first he said 5 inches by 5 inches.
Oh.
And this wheel's 2.5 inches already.
Right.
So then we had an original model that was just drove forward backwards.
Okay.
And then one day I was just kind of like sick of it. So he said that we can go with, like, if we want it bigger, we can.
Nice.
So I built another frame, and then we found this car, and it just kind of ended up lining up with the wheels.
And when you say model, what was the model made out of, or was it drawn?
Just
or?
cardboard. Here you can.
Is it
pull
here?
down.
Oh, so this is got it.
Oh, yeah.
This
oh,
is.
wow.
It was like this
Oh.
big at first, and now
That's
it's
so
all
cool.
that.
Okay.
And
so
then
literally you start
what's
with
inside
that.
there, Jake? What's all that? What's all this?
That's our circuit board.
What's this thing right there?
Breadboard.
Breadboard. Right. So we went through a breadboard activity first,
Very cool.
showing them how the 5 in the row work, and then from there each circuit could get run by itself, and then all of them come back on the same road, so that the grounds come back on the same road. Now, what was really neat about the scavenging was this was broken in the box, and he just took it apart. He
Look how
just
cool it looks.
he added all those things.
Yeah.
And the car was another broken toy over there, and the wheels were Legos,
So
and he put them all
forward,
together.
backwards, horn and lights.
I know, they were just telling me over there that you got your steering all hooked up and everything, ready to go.
Yeah, that's ready
They
to go.
got steering.
once
That's
I
the
figure
bonus.
it out.
Yeah, you
Don't
can see
forget
it.
that we aimed high.
Right?
What are the emotions that are involved in building this, right?
This is
Like,
amazing. I love. Is
stressed.
that a
yeah.
straw?
Uh-huh. But then at the end,
That's fantastic.
The lights and the horn.
it's awesome.
And the lights, he rigged them up.
Is
to
this
the
something
car
that you
lights.
want to maybe do after
Yeah.
school?
I
or
would have paid.
go to college for it?
Absolutely, I'd pay money for it
So
now.
I'm going to BBT.
You got
right
subs
now.
back here?
Okay.
No, I wish. I'm doing the engineering and robotics program.
Nice, okay.
This is what my first pick is.
Good, good. No, this is
phenomenal.
impressive. I didn't have any of this when I went to high school, so
I know.
I am
That's
thoroughly
amazing,
impressed
Jake.
by this.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Awesome job.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
It's exciting.
Jake, you want to switch around? And
Sure.
Thank you for sharing. We'll take it.
Ladies, how are ya?
So great.
Look at this.
I love her hair. What is she made out of, actually?
This is wood.
Okay.
And then it runs off the battery board and the motor.
Oh, all right. And so how did you, how does this work?
So this is what makes it go forwards and backwards. So this is the button that moves it.
Okay.
This is the harness.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that is so awesome.
That's pretty fast.
Yeah, we were thinking of putting it on the remote, but then that makes sense to
Yeah. And this is clever. This is from headphones?
Yeah, yeah. We found those.
Yeah, that's like monster truck tires for the.
We found a little package of them in one of the areas that we had the materials.
Yeah.
And we had a lot of different what we were going to do for the wheels, but when we used these, it actually moved, and we figured it would just be good traction.
Did you sketch this out before you started actually putting it together on paper?
Yeah, we have a journal. We have to log everything we do.
Okay.
Where do you think you fall on the line?
I can actually go get
Are they testing it? To see if
Oh, that'd be great.
it's straight?
And so, how many times did it take before you actually got to this point?
So many. We had to keep rewiring and changing things and making it better. We had to upgrade.
Oh, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah, every kind of progress we made. That was the first day.
Okay, so just like the brainstorming.
Yeah.
Okay, then the drawings are getting better.
We were probably one of the most the hardest things to grasp was using the breadboards, because at the beginning we had no clue what they were. He introduced them to us. We had a couple days to play with them, but working with connecting multiple different circuits on the same breadboard
Right.
too. But it was actually really challenging. This is a
And this is the breadboard here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
White and yellow too.
Wow. Okay, and so are you confident that this is going to win?
No.
Thank you for sharing.
No.
That's awesome.
Thank you so much for sharing. It was
Great job, guys.
awesome.
So Mr. Sparks, if you
Future
kind of have maybe a
electricians,
student
yeah,
or two walk
Yeah.
through the process.
Absolutely.
The viewing
Some
audience at
employees?
home.
But what was amazing, I just wanted to finish up by saying, from what is a battery to this in one school year, and the happiness, or when you saw them, you had to be there. You get the goosebumps watching them hold you off and say, "No, I got this. I can figure this out. Hold off." So what did we start with, guys? Somebody, what was the very first thing after this? What did we do?
We had to come up with a simple design on the first day, like what we were going to use for the wheels and the actual body of the car.
Okay, so the first thing we said was we have to have the engineering process, research and design, right, before you could move ahead and get somebody to get materials. So after we did that, what was the first thing we wired? What did we say we were going to do?
We started to wire a light to get to know how a circuit works, and then we kind of progressed from there. We talked about how to make something go forward and reverse, and then it just progressed from there.
And so what was probably the hardest thing you had to actually make happen here? What was the hardest thing? The actual hardest
I'd
thing?
say the hardest thing for us was probably going from a bunch of wires to only one telephone wire.
So we have something called wire management that was coined by one of the students. And originally, every one of these circuits was just a wire. They wired each one. And then at one point, we took the bell wire, the telephone wire, and said, look, inside this, you have 6 wires. Now, let's clean up your wiring. And little by little, they would take a wire out and replace it. Blue for that one in here. And then they'd say, let's use the white one for the horn. And the next thing you know, instead of having 7 or 8 wires coming down all taped together, you had an umbilical cord that actually looked like the part that you were having it. So that's great. How about the motion, the traction, the drive gears? Was that harder than the electronics? What do you think?
I feel like, oh yeah, you can go.
I used hot glue because I know that grips well because it's kind of rubbery.
because bottle caps would not move on their own. They would just like slip on the table.
And you'll notice that every car is different. One of my colleagues said, well, you can just buy a kit, a snap together kit. They're $200. Just order a bunch for the kids. What they got out of this by making it from scratch far outweighs the fact of understanding the circuit. What they troubleshot through, the wires just, falling apart. How do I get them? Jake, master solderer by the end of this. He was soldering other people. Give me something to solder. He was all over the place. But
we're gonna keep our eye on you.
yeah, absolutely. But every car has different wheels. Every car has different shape. Every car has different ideas. And you don't get that with a snap together kit. That idea of building something from scratch and watching the trial and error. Yeah, it was really interesting. Please ask any questions. They can answer.
I'm impressed. I mean, like I was just telling one of you guys here, we didn't have that when I went to high school. You said you were ready to. That's your
This is
field.
middle
you
school.
wanted.
Well,
Middle school. Sorry, middle school. Even that, I didn't even have that in middle school years ago. But I think this is amazing. I think you guys did an outstanding job. They're all different. Like you said, it's better to build it yourself as opposed to like a kit. Absolutely, good job.
It dawned on me there's probably also a social emotional learning aspect to this in terms of the emotional journey. I'd love to hear a little bit about some of what you went through from the start of your design to the end product, and what that feels like to have this finished and work.
Well, throughout the thing, we actually had a journal where we just wrote down all of our thoughts, our challenges, our conflicts, how we solved our solutions. And if you look at our journal, you can hear pure emotion, because there were a lot of moments that our team dynamic was not perfect.
Raise your hand. How many people's cried at least once during this project?
Oh my God.
Surprisingly.
I almost did when she dropped it.
That's excellent. Thank you.
I just want to point out, I'm not sure that everyone at the table understands this, but the schedule of how they did this, I guess you'd never know. How many times a week do you guys meet? One time, twice in a 6-day cycle. So 2 times in a 6-day cycle, they're coming into class. It's 2 days in a row.
2 days in a
2
row.
days in a row. Then 4 days of school, going to other places. So 4 days of school could be actually 6-8 days, right? Then they have to come back and get back going on their project. So that's what I think makes it even more amazing is there's that much time lapse in between, and they're still coming back and are still successful. So that tells me that they are understanding and learning and then being able to transfer all of that. And I think a lot of that has to do with the hands-on piece. And I think if we kind of work on scheduling and think about different ways that we could schedule this so that kids have more consecutive time with it, I can only imagine these projects would be that much better.
Although I don't think they could have really got that much better. You guys are fantastic.
Not these
right?
particular
Not
ones.
these particular ones.
Other ones.
Yeah, great project to the teachers to, increase, the learning environment that you've created from the collaborative effort to the problem solving's great. One of the questions that I asked both the groups that came up to me first is, did it work the first time? And they said no, and they smiled. In I think in hopes that it would, but then they went through the problem solving efforts of getting it to function that we saw today. So I think that's important to know that, sometimes it doesn't work on the first time, you don't get it right, but if you keep working on it as a group, then you get a functional component that you see right here. So should be very happy of the work that you've completed, and looking forward to seeing it carry forward.
Teachers, I think these projects are fantastic. I want to say thank you for coming today and sharing them with us. I can really tell you put a lot of hard work into these, so thank you. And I think the soft skills that you're developing through these project-based learning is really great. The communication, collaboration, teamwork. These skills will carry you forward in life and whatever you do. So I think that's great. It's a great start. It's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you.
I just had one more comment for consideration, maybe with the buildings trade, would there be a way to get some resources to help redesign your room? Because I think I've been in it.
You've been in it.
And I think you need more space to make some of, I'm just wondering if there's a way we could link some of that great effort. I just wanted to throw it out there.
We've been kind of talking. And that's something we're gonna look into.
Okay.
Maybe not necessarily with building trades, but
Sure.
Through other avenues,
Okay.
through other grant opportunities. Maybe our friends at Lowe's.
Excellent.
But
Their final project's gonna be a CAD design of the ideal steam room. So that maybe they have an idea. They lived it. Where are the tools? Where are the things? How come the hot glue is not plugged in?
Ergonomic
So
design.
ergonomics, those tables aren't set up right. So hopefully their last hurrah will be, and make it better next year.
I love it.
So that'd be great.
Thank you.
well, hopefully when those are done, you'll invite us in to your classroom and maybe you can showcase some of those for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
In your class.
Yep.
I want to see the drag racing myself.
No, the drag racing's gonna be great. It's gonna be 2 chutes, sand, water, glass. It's gonna be great.
I like where your head's at.
Yes.
Anybody else wanna say anything? No? I actually wanna, I just wanna say congratulations. It's just an amazing job, from the teachers and educators, down to you guys. It's amazing and inspirational to see. I do have a question specifically for the ladies. Because we're always talking about the applied sciences and the participation of females in the applied sciences, how does this make you feel about your career paths moving forward? I know you're only in 8th grade, but like, what level of interest do you have in this? And is this something you think you'll pursue moving forward?
Well, it's me and Josh and one other girl, and it was all kind of just like, we all worked the same amount, which I really liked because Josh didn't just do all the work.
Although we could have, right?
Yeah. And I'm kind of like really proud because I wouldn't have thought I could accomplish something like this like on my own, but.
Does
like,
this
with-
make you want to look at
Yeah,
engineering
definitely.
or design or?
I really enjoyed it, and I didn't think I would, and it's just like definitely supported my teammates and my teacher.
That's awesome.
Yeah, we have a group of all 3 girls, so it was pretty, like, it felt good when we were able to accomplish a good car moving, functioning, and it was fun, so I might look into it when I grow up.
That's awesome. That's great to hear.
I also had a group of 3 girls, and I've definitely wanted to do engineering as my career, and this helped me see that I actually can, and it helped me see like what some of the things I can do with it going forwards.
That's amazing.
I will say that I would say a good portion of the females in the class far exceeded the males. And it could just be an 8th grader kind of focus on life kind of thing, but as
Don't
far
take that
as,
personally, fellas.
No,
Yeah.
no, you guys are, you rock. But as far as staying focused and just the detail work and the documenting, the groups that selected, themselves really worked, especially like the 3 girls and your all-girl group. They were focused, blinders on every day, sat down, there was no basketball talk, how'd the Patriots do, let me stab you with this pencil. They really were focused, which was great.
I think it's amazing, and I hope that stays the course for you moving forward. Thank you.
Write me a letter when you get there. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Awesome job. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for coming.
And I'll take it. If you want to take it home tonight, you can bring it in whenever you can. Here's your top. Same thing. Take it home, bring it back in.
All right, so moving forward, we have the report of the Assistant Superintendent for Business.
Can I just say one other thing? I'm sorry. Is that all right or no?
Can I say no to him?
No.
Oh, all right, go ahead.
You can, but why would you want to?
Why? How could you?
I'd feel remiss if we've been talking about enrichment opportunities, and we specifically pointed out 2 kind of hands-on projects that are more towards like building trades, robotics, engineering, that kind of a thing. But we do, I guess, projects like this in our English classes too, where you may not have this end product like this, but there are ways that teachers differentiate so that they can push kids that are ready in a different direction. I guess an example I can give you is just from my daughter. And my daughter just really enjoys right now writing novels. So when it comes time to English class for her, the teacher's pushing her in that direction and letting her just write books and write novels, and that's for a first grader. So that's one way that I think teachers can differentiate, where another kid may not be ready for that, so another kid's working on something else, I don't know, writing something. But it happens all the way through our system in one class or another. So I'm happy that these guys were able to come in and kind of showcase this. But I think this is only a fragment of the great things that are happening in our schools every day. So.
I had a couple questions, Greg. I absolutely agree. I think when you look at this list, right, it's clear there's just a behemoth of things. So no intention of my comments meant to question that, just from some clarifications. So some of the core academic things I feel like that are in this list in terms of Academic Skills Center and Stacy Succeeds Math Intervention, I'm just curious, do we offer that on the other end of the spectrum as well? Because in my mind, those are to help bring kids up.
Right.
I'm also, like, from a rigor and a challenge, do we have similar things on the other end of the spectrum?
Well, at Stacy, like for example, at Stacy's not in 6th grade, but as you move forward, it's like in math is leveled, right? So you have like the 120 level, or in 8th grade, for example, you have the Algebra 1 high school course that all kids are taking, right?
Well, I would say also, if I can jump in, you also see things like at the middle school level, like there's the national French exam. There's like essay competitions that students participate in that give kind of like that additional challenge. I think Craig's example in the 1st grade, I think you'll see some project differentiation happening at the middle school level, but it's not like as explicit, I would say. Like we're not like saying like, this kid's writing a novel and you're doing this, it's just kind of happening.
Okay.
But sorry, go ahead. I had an example.
I was just wondering, is there an opportunity to do the same thing, like a math intervention group for kids that are really on the other end of the spectrum? And I don't know if it's a pullout or within the classroom, or even is there some way to, and maybe they're fully utilized, so this point is mute, but is there some way to utilize the instructional coaches to facilitate smaller group settings, just to...
Not instructional coaches, I would say no.
Okay.
How we could use instructional coaches to facilitate it is to work with teachers to be able to differentiate.
Okay.
So that's how we would use the instructional coach. I would say that the opportunities happen, but they're not, the kids don't get pulled out of class. So I would say it happens within the class, and it most likely, there's some different ways that they do it. So they may put a group of kids together that already know the skill in like a side part of the room. At Stacy, it's really tough. At Woodland, it's easier because you can put them outside of the room. You can still see them, and we have all those additional spaces. At Stacy, it's tough. So they may send a group. Teachers may send a group to the library, for example, and they're working on an independent project together. Or we have the ALEX program at Stacy, so they may put them on some ALEX program that's at a higher level. Because you're able to differentiate that program as well. They do the same thing happens at Woodland, so they open up different levels of ST math, for example. But as far as like a specific intervention teacher for higher students, we don't have that. That would be more like a gifted and talented, I guess, program. And I'm not sure where it would happen either. So at Woodland, when there's intervention, there's a specific intervention block, and they pull the students out into those small groups. They're working on specific skills, and then they slide them back in. We just don't have the staff to be able to pull like the low kids out and high kids out, and then leave the teacher with a group. We just don't have the staff for that.
it seems to me, Craig, that some of the stuff that we've heard for the MCEI on the assessments
Yep.
like, is gonna like feed this, right? Because
Good.
you really have such opportunity. Is that gonna be K through 2 as well?
Yeah, so we put it out to K2, and we asked the K2 teachers, anyone's interested, and we were looking for 2 teachers. We were hoping for 2 teachers at each grade level, and I think that we're over 20
Oh, wow.
that
Okay.
we're sending down. We're sending them down tomorrow, actually, for their first group.
Okay.
We're teaming up with Attleboro on
Okay,
that.
excellent.
So they'll get some good coaching, and they'll work together with that other school system.
But that's a great example of kind of, pushing the practice, and I think that, the teachers are hungry for that too.
Okay.
To kind of have that structure and I think living under kind of the umbrella of MCAS, I think teachers are very reticent to do like these kinds of things because they're so focused on like meeting the standards and kind of, hitting, and I think what we're trying to do is give them the freedom to really, do these things because you can do it in a standards-based way, in an engaging way, and I think teachers love that. But I think there's just, we've been living under test-based accountability for such a long time that I think a lot of teachers either, I think directly or indirectly feel that like their kind of hands are tied to some degree because
Yep.
they feel like they have to like,
Sure.
particularly in mathematics where there's a lot of information in a particular year and you kind of have to get to a certain point to make sure the kids are ready for the test. And we're trying to, we're basically saying that everywhere there's opportunity for this kind of innovation and engagement, and I think we're seeing more and more of it.
Thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? Chris? Oh, sorry.
Just to follow up on that, I would love to hear about some of those enrichment opportunities that are happening at some of the lower grades
Mhm.
here, because I think we can highlight some of those, and I would like to, just, I guess,
Same kind of
hear,
thing?
yeah, hear from the teachers and
Okay.
students. I think it would be great.
I'll try to pull it off
harder,
by the
but
end of the,
yeah.
well, no, I know that our agenda for the next, like, couple meetings, because we have all the schools coming in, is kind of packed.
Mhm.
But I'll try to, I'll see if we can do it. I'll see if
Maybe we can kind of
fit it in.
like
with
stick
their
it in
group.
within the presentation.
I know Corey's coming in next meeting, and we saw some of the great projects that they
Yep.
were doing in,
I went down there for that.
the Imagination.
Invention Convention.
Invention
Convention,
Convention, yeah.
yeah.
So we saw that.
Yep.
But then the meeting after that, I think, is Brookside Memorial. So maybe for May, I think it's May 24th, that meeting. We'll see if we can pull it off.
That's my one worry is a good point, is we're wildly ambitious with agenda items and just, not a lot of time. I think it's a great thing because I think it's great to showcase like the students, and that's why we bring like the performance groups in too.
Right.
And maybe it's just something we do next year where we try to weave people in throughout the year,
Mhm.
even if we can't do like the May and June meetings are just
Yep.
unbelievably full, but we can probably get something in before the end of the school year, I bet. I love the idea. 'cause
Well,
it's
one
just
group
promoting-
one thing that we did talk about at the beginning of the year, if you remember, we had that Lego, they had a Lego research project going on in the first grade classroom. I don't remember, did we talk about that? They kind of did some STEM projects and there was a couple first grade classrooms, I think there was 4. And maybe some second grade too. It happened at Memorial, because they were looking for one school. I can't go into great detail with it because we signed like a non-disclosure agreement, so scratch that from the record.
There's no.
But they were doing.
There's no reason for anybody in the viewing audience to be concerned.
They were doing research on, like they're trying to build a curriculum, basically. So they were.
Everybody forget you were.
Okay. Well, I just think the more that we can.
I'm gonna go with Jim's initial instinct and say no more Craig.
Yeah, can you say no to Craig?
They were doing
Yeah, you
research
can.
on just trying to build this curriculum. So they asked if they could work with our students.
So I just know it's a little bit easier sometimes with enrichment, like you said, at Stacy because of leveling or because of
Yeah.
the different the way that we can do that at the higher level. So at the lower levels, I would just, if we are doing some of that enrichment and
Yep.
meeting the needs of our high achieving students, then I think we should highlight that.
Yep. And I would say, in some ways it's harder, in some ways it's easier, because you have teachers with students all day long, right? So they potentially know their students a little more, so they know when to push kids. and they know when to pull back a little more because they see them all day, and they know which subject areas maybe are strengths and which ones are weaknesses. So I think it would look very different, I think, at what's happening there versus what's happening at like the middle school or whatever.
Right.
So, I don't know.
Good.
Obviously, the list here, Enrichment activity, 2.5, 3 pages of Stacy. Woodland seems a little bit short by list, but I mean, just off the top of my head, I know there's a few other events.
I know
that
there's
they've
more
had.
on here that
Yeah,
that
so
weren't.
I guess, you know, when you look at it, you're like, oh, Woodland seems to be lacking in enrichment overall, you know, so, you know, in comparison to Stacy, because there's so many activities. But I guess my question is Woodland lacking in enrichment? Do we need to try to push them a little bit more?
So I think if you look at what is in Stacy versus maybe what's on Woodland, I think a lot of things too were things that happened in school. No, not necessarily. Yeah. So when I asked the principals to fill it out, I didn't give them any direction really. I just said, put in enrichment activities because I really wanted to honestly see what they would come back with. To what they consider enrichment versus what I consider.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on.
Right.
I wouldn't read into that in any. And I think that's why you're bringing it up.
I'm not reading into it. I just want them to get kind of their equal share per se. You know, if anybody were to look at this document, just knowing that.
Yeah.
You know, the staff up there does enrichment, but also from our side, from the committee, to make sure that is there anything more that we can do to help push any additional enrichment. That's all. If we felt that we were lacking. So that's my.
And
questioning.
I don't know. I guess something to consider is what Meg brought up. Is just having potentially pull-out situations for those intervention times where you could offer something for students, but we need staff for it. We don't have the staff for it.
You know, I guess much like our days of, you know, we focus in on like student health, things of that sort. Have we ever looked into a week or a day of focusing on student technology and collaboration district-wide? Is that something that we can
It's nothing we've ever done. It's something that, you know, I've seen done in other districts where we, you know, they do like Dave Coding's a great example. But you could kind of extend that out to almost any topic.
Right.
And say like you're gonna do across the district, you're gonna do X, Y, or Z.
Exactly.
Whatever it is.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we could look at. The tricky thing is finding days because everybody's on everybody's kind of circadian rhythms are on a little bit of a different.
Well, I know
method,
it's
but
school by school, and then obviously, you know.
Yeah, but I think like something like that is kind of fun for students and for teachers, and it's kind of an enriching experience. It's something I can throw out to the leadership team that we can talk about. I think it's a good idea.
You saw the enthusiism.
Yeah. Oh,
that's
yeah.
why from,
It's awesome.
From teachers and students, and especially the students.
I think
is that something that.
Honestly, I think teachers, MCAS kills innovation. I'll just say it honestly. I think teachers are feeling pressure. I think they would feel pressured of like taking a day off of just their daily routine in classes. And I think as parents, when you see the kinds of things that teachers feel more comfortable doing when MCAS is over.
Right.
It's stuff we'd love to see all year.
It's stuff, exactly. And how do we free teachers of that burden of MCAS? Because it truly is a burden, and it's really, teachers are so creative and are so innovative, but they're so afraid to play outside of the lines because of MCAS and because of just that achievement score and direct or indirect, however it's said to them, it's just, MCAS is really hurting.
And Craig and I have said this repeatedly in front of groups of teachers, and I think it's so ingrained that, you know, and again, I think we're making progress each year because people are realizing that you can do the standards-based education in a very engaging way.
Right.
And I think, again, I think the teachers are open to it. They've been wildly enthusiastic. about, you know, a lot of the different initiatives that are happening across the district. So I don't think it's the teachers we have are fantastic. I think this it's like Craig said, it's the shadow of MCAS. I think it's just like, you know, they hear something that's mentioned by somebody that goes into the media or something like that, and it just kind of chills, you know, like they just kind of pause.
No, it's
I
unfortunate.
mean, I look at that, you know, certain, as you, in a sense, you drill, math, science, English, you know, that every once in a while, yeah, you get the kids, get the students to kind of step back from the daily lectures and to be able to kind of work on projects like you saw, you know, and does that beneficial when, after the project's done, now it's back to, you know, you shift gears back to learning. Is there
And the more
is there a
different,
benefit to
and
it?
there's 100% there's a benefit to it. And the more different things we kind of do, like I think Craig's example of his daughter who loves like writing and writing books is a great example. We had a number of kids that like building a doghouse or building anything today was just like, that was like it for them. That was just fantastic. We have other kids who, you know, you had our singers and musicians here today. So I think we've got to continue to do different things, because there's never going to be one thing that's going to be like, that's the thing for every kid. Like, I'm sure there's some kids who were in that, building that car class who are like, this is the worst thing ever.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Everybody has their interests.
Yeah,
Right.
so I think, you know, the more we can make, you know, the more, and I think one of the great things we have right now, and I'd love to continue, is we do have diverse offerings, and I'd like to continue to grow those. You know, Laura talked a little bit earlier about, like, you know, language programs at the elementary schools, which I think is something that's worth kind of looking at. But again, to Craig's point, every time we add a program, we either have to take something off the table and replace it, or add an additional position in. And that's where the difficult conversations come in.
Yeah.
So, I don't disagree. I think the more like fun, innovative things we can do, the more kids are gonna be engaged, and they're gonna kind of run into the school building instead of running out at the end of the day,
Exactly, yeah.
which is what we're looking for.
Very good.
Anybody else? Okay. The report of Kathy.
Yes, I have for the committees.
Craig.
No, just kidding.
I was like, does he have a limit?
I think he's got somewhere he has to go.
Let me get all my questions out now.
I have for the committee's approval this evening, warrants totaling in the amount of $624,304.09.
Can I get a motion? Meg? John? Second? All in favor?
I also have a list of the latest appointments from our previous meeting. It's for your information only. We do have a budget update, and we are monitoring two deficits, one being tuition, and the other would be transportation. And we are following both of those areas very closely to make sure that we end the year solvent. Essentially, what we're doing is trying to carry that large deficit and keeping those expenses away from circuit breaker to help with our FY20 budget. So we will be monitoring, and we'll have another update at the end of the month in May.
Thank you.
We also have, sorry?
With that deficit, and I did notice it with transportation, like, I guess, how do we offset that? I mean, we
Essentially-
certainly budgeted X amount of dollars, and now we're below.
Two things. One area would be the circuit breaker revenue.
Okay.
So what I like to do is monitor that and try to hold steady and firm with that. And then again, two areas which would be the most controlling, which is our teaching assistants. We have grants that we access for our TAs. So essentially, I've been shifting any new TAs over to the grants and leaving the local revenue to offset the out-of-district cost. So essentially, it's a special ed department deficit and a special ed department revenue gain to offset the deficit.
And that's
So essentially, I'll keep watching each and every area and try to control all expenses.
and that deficit is more from the transportation for out of district placements.
Exactly, it's one and the same.
Yep. Very good. Thank
And
you.
the trend is that we get weekly updates from special ed, and the trend is the students going out. We have not, typically we'll see a couple go out and one stay in or come back, and that just didn't happen this year.
So yes, we've had two weird trends in terms of just student trends. One is what Kathy just described as special education. We just have a higher number of students requiring out-of-district services, and two, just our overall numbers are up.
And, Mr. Chair, there are gifts.
Okay. Read the gifts. A generous gift from Catherine Ashew for Milford Special Olympics in the total of $85. Thank you very much. And the second gift is Friends of Milford Area Special Athletes for Milford Special Olympics in the sum of $1,250. Thank you very much, very generous.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, we need to make a motion to accept the gifts. Chris and John. All in favor? Thank you. Thank you. Okay, subcommittee updates, climate, culture, and morale.
That's Laura.
So the climate, culture, and morale group met on Tuesday, April 23rd after school. We heard updates from Shining Star, the nursing department, Stacy, and the high school. A survey was recently distributed at the high school and the results were very positive. Also got an update on the cell phone policy. So it's had a very positive impact on school culture. So I was happy to hear that, and also on teaching and learning happening in the classroom. Enrollment continues to increase like we've been talking about here tonight. And then discipline is a concern at Stacy, which will be a focus of the administration for the remainder of the year. That's it.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Also policy.
Which part of it? The goal development, right? Yeah.
We met tonight, Jim. We talked about a couple policies and also talked about subcommittee goal development for the group. And so we did come up with a goal for that that subcommittee, basically to come up with an inventory of policies and look at the last time they were reviewed and whether or not they have an annual review component, and then help us kind of prioritize going forward what we'll look at. So we'll include that into the overall kind of goal update that we're doing at the monthly meeting, so everyone have that to look at for the next meeting.
Thank you. Is there a rev process associated with the policies that we monitor now?
Certainly it's documented within the policy. I don't think we have an overall very easy way to assess
the rev
that.
assessment,
So the goal will be to include that.
Okay.
One of the issues we saw, just for the committee's kind of purviews, we went through, I think it was section B, it might be 3 years ago now, and that took more than a full school year to get through, because I think one thing we've learned in policy is that once you get into it, you go, oh, this is going to be easy, and then it ends up taking 4 or 5 meetings to kind of hash out the details. A lot of times we have to bring counsel in to kind of review any potential recommended changes, and it ends up being like a much more time-consuming process than we anticipate. I think this is a good approach because it'll allow us to kind of look at all the policies overall, and there's many policies, and kind of prioritize probably over the next several years, and that will probably be an iterative process within that.
And then we also discussed the MHS and woodland turf policy, which we'll bring to the committee for a first read next week.
Perfect. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Any questions or?
Oh, sorry, Jim, there is one other. I'm sorry, public participation in school committee meetings. So based upon some recent legislative changes, there's a couple edits that we want to make to that. So we reviewed a sample. We're actually going to have our attorney review it and then have the subcommittee review it and then come back. So that's
Perfect.
a few more iterations away.
Thank you very much. Okay. So school liaison updates. Anybody been to their respective schools? No, that's cool. And future agenda items. No? All good. Old business. No? Oh, Laura.
Just the honorable policy at Stacy. Do we end up getting that? Do we end up getting a new? Is that something that's coming up? for
Yeah,
the
so I
meetings?
think Nancy will talk about it when she does her
Oh, okay.
handbook updates. They've also they're also having, I believe, specialists provide a kind of midterm update similar to what teachers do.
Oh, okay. So that's.
So I think that'll help give parents more information.
Is that effective
along
for fourth term?
Let me find out and give an update next time. I don't want to.
Okay.
I don't want to give incorrect information.
Sure. Thank you.
But I know that's been an ongoing discussion.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else for old business? No. Okay, we do have executive session, so I'm gonna do my best to get us into executive session. Based
just
on
take a-
my notes. I move to go into executive session,
We need to take a roll call vote.
and we need to take a roll call vote. We'll start.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
We're adjourning
We are adjourning the current meeting. We will not be returning. So, thank you very much.
Motion.
Oh, motion. Sorry, motion. First, second, Meg and Joe, and all in favor. And good night, everyone.
Great.
I promise to get this better if I do it again.